Welcome back to season 3 of Trash Chatter. I'm your host, Victoria Conway, and today I am pleased to be joined by Mike Walker from Spiffy Bin out of Atlanta, Georgia. Mike, thank you so much for making some time today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I want to first ask you what path led you down to trash bin cleaning back in 2018 when you were deciding what you wanted to do. How did you stumble upon trash bin cleaning?
Sure. I was working a manufacturing job and was not really happy with the path that my life was going to take if I had continued down that road. So it was probably February or so of 18 that I started looking into, on YouTube on my breaks, lunch breaks or whatever. And I was just looking at different business opportunities. And ironically, the first one that stumbled along was gas grill cleaning. So in your backyard, you've got a charbroil or whatever grill on your backyard, and this company would sell you a small, I don't know, $30,000 little trailer thing. You take all the parts in the back, throw them in the truck and this trailer, start boiling them. Then you clean the outside and switch out any igniters or different things. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So like everything I do before I really delve too deep into it, I decided I would buy a 5 gallon um, tub. I would get degreaser, get hot water, all this kind of stuff. Well, needless to say, about 3.5 weeks later, we were not grilling out because I was like, screw this. I'm not doing this, 3 times a day times however many days. It was just dirty, nasty work. And so I said, well, what else is out there? And stumbled across, some of your dad's videos and was watching a lot of those videos as he was showing trucks that he was selling. And then I started a Google spreadsheet and I was, putting in all these different companies from around the country, and then I go to their websites and they put their pricing in. So I did about 7 months of research long before I even mentioned it. Honestly, about 5 months of those were before I even mentioned it to my family. Just kind of looking at different ideas. And, I didn't want anybody in my head, whether it was, quote unquote, the salesman to get in my head, or it was my own family to get in my head before I really decided to take the plunge. So, and then around July or so, um, my wife was like, well, we should ask my father what he thinks. And so, we had discussions, and turns out ended up going for it and ordered it. And the rest is history, I guess.
You mentioned family and how this is a family oriented business. Did anyone give you any advice? Obviously, it was your first time running a company like this. Did anyone, once you made the decision, before you let them get into your head, did anyone offer some advice?
Uh, he did, yeah. My Actually, it was my father-in-law. It was one funny story, and that same actually, it was later on, but and we were talking, and he goes, I really think maybe you should talk to the trash haulers and see if they're okay with you cleaning their bins. And I was like, I don't know. Like at that point, I was kind of paranoid, right? It's not often that you purchase a $100,000 plus piece of equipment long before you even have it. And what if somebody finds the idea ahead of me and they started ahead of me, or what have you? So I said, I'm not sure about that. I said, I'm kind of an ask for forgiveness kind of guy versus asking for permission. And he's like, I don't know, I think you should. And I said, okay, well, I'll keep that in mind. So fast forward now, it's December, I don't know, 19th or something of 2018. And we got the truck. We had just done our parade on Saturday, which was the kind of the mandate that I gave your dad. I said, I got to have this truck by the Christmas parade, because that's going to get me all the business right in the world. And that'll make me, I'll probably get 500 signups from that one parade. And so I have to have it. I don't know if you can tell any tongue in cheek in there, but and so I said, okay. So, of course, that happened Tuesday of the following week. Now, mind you, on Monday, I had 2 stops that had signed up. So I had 2 stops, a total of 4 bins. And then on Tuesday, I was going to have 1 stop with 2 bins, because in the beginning, that's just, you get what you get. And so I'm at work and I get this call, and it says, hey, this is, I don't know, Tony from a local waste hauler. And my heart, like literally, they say you feel it in your stomach. I totally felt it in my stomach. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get shut down on day 2. So of course I start to talk to him, and he goes, hey, I hear you're doing trash bin cleaning. I said, oh yeah, I am. And he says, curious, how long does it take you to do like 100 bins? And I'm like, I don't, I'm not sure. He goes, well, how much does it cost you to do 100 bins? I'm like, oh, geez, I'm not sure. And I could tell in his voice, he was perturbed. Like, how does this guy not know his numbers? And he goes, and then his next question was, how do you not know?" And I said, "Well, to date, I've done a total of 2 bins."
Day
I
two.
said, "Yeah, 2 total." So 1 stop, 2 bins took me about 15 minutes. So I guess if we extrapolate, I could give you a number, but I don't know that that's what you're looking for. And he goes, "Huh?" And I said, "Yeah, I literally just started yesterday." I said, "I was supposed to have 2 stops, and ironically enough, your truck was late to one of the set of stops, so I have to pause till today." I said, "So today I'll have 4 stops." And he's like, "Wow." And so, it worked out all right. And then I don't know, about 2 weeks later, we were out at his yard. My 16-year-old daughter, we got her some muck boots, and we were out at the yard doing about 50 bins as a trial. And to date, we've gone back again for another stint of 300 bins. We've done some other ones at various times, excuse me. But to date, it's a great relationship, and they're growing, they're acquiring other companies, and of course, we're growing. So I think we'll soon turn into not a partnership of sorts, but certainly a pretty good working relationship.
50 bins 1 week into business is not a bad way to get started.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. Of course, it's hard work. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, right? We were in this no trash yard is very clean. It's all muddy everywhere, but we were learning our process. And I'll tell you, like you said, if you do 50 bins in one day, and with your teenage daughter who does not typically like to get dirty, she we you learn real quick what the tips and tricks are.
As you've grown in the last 4 years, Mike, how have your methods of advertising changed? What have you learned from different ways? And where do you see your most success in terms of advertising?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I made sure that I had enough extra funds that we could do things to get the word out, right? We were effectively the first business in Atlanta. There was another company that did it out of a little trailer, and he wore kilts. And I don't have the body type to wear a kilt, so I needed something else. And the thought process was I would go ahead and make sure that I got the word out. So, the first month, first December, January, I held off on that, but then February we went kind of hard, and we got into a home show. So we did a home show, and that was well received. Again, that whole elevator speech, they talk about having a 30-second elevator speech about your business. So you do that 400 times in a 3 or 4 day period, you get your elevator speech down pat. And it was good. We met a couple different people, met a couple HOAs. Oh, we'll sign up, we'll sign up. Of course, a lot of times what people say and a lot of times what people do are not exactly the same. But it was still good to get out there. In March, we did a beer fest. We've been doing that every year since. So I think we just did our fifth one this past spring, or fourth one, I guess, this past spring. And we sponsor the water for that. It's a nice little trade. We provide 4,500 bottles of water, and they give us the space and allow us to advertise or what have you to their people. So that's a pretty good thing, and we get in for free too. So that's nice. And then starting again, so that was March, April, and May. We did a couple touch a truck events. Those are events where they bring firefighters and police cars and dump trucks, and now a trash bin cleaning truck. And so I threw a couple bins up there, and I let the kids run the lifter up and down, up and down. And then every, I don't know, fifth or eighth kid, there would be a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old person or a child, and then I would have them operate it. So we'd go, "Oh, you want to clean a bin?" So we turn it on, we get the steam going, and then we'd run it for, I don't know, 15 seconds, and then we'd shut it down. Well, of course, all eyes turn to you, so that's why I just did it every 4 or 5 minutes. And so, "Oh, I want to go see that one," and forget the fire truck. Who wants to look at a fire truck? So we did a lot of those. Of course, Facebook ads and Instagram ads, and walks. We do a lot of different walks where we provide water at the walk as well. Bring the truck out in front of it, and we have the truck in the background, and then we have the table in front of us, and we're handing out waters, and so a lot of different grassroots actions. Parades. I already mentioned the parade. So we do a parade every December, and we do a couple in July. We've done the first couple years. We did a couple in July, but the problem with the July one is I like to be out on the water. I probably should be in the parade, but we're going to do that this year. I think we'll have another parade this year in July. So it's kind of changed over the years.
It seems like anywhere you can get eyes on the truck, that makes a big difference. And you definitely take advantage of those. I see the videos. You put some lights on the spiffy trucks, and it's a good way to just teach people what you do.
It is, and having the truck is paramount, I think, to the success that we've had. I think any other device or product or whatever, equipment is not going to be as impressive as the truck. Some people say, well, you could grow with the trailer and switch up, and you can. I mean, that's a solution. But at the time when I was deciding the two, I didn't have a pickup truck. I had a Pathfinder, my wife's Pathfinder. Well, that was going to be dead in about 2 months because it just didn't have the capacity to pull, certainly on a 5 day a week kind of thing. So, so that was not something I had available. So now if I'm going to buy the trailer, whatever that costs, then I'm going to buy the pickup truck. This is all long before the prices of pickup trucks went through the roof, but they were still pretty high then. It was going to cost me more, so it didn't make sense. So I went with the truck right away, and I'm really happy I did because I feel it provides a more professional uh, look to the community, and it's effective. I mean, you can't beat that too. So
Once again, here inside of Trash Chatter Season 3 with Mike Walker out of Spiffy Bin in Atlanta, Georgia. He runs 3 SB4 trucks and talk a little bit about the ways he markets and he advertises. Mike, obviously, I'm sure you'd take any client, but if you had to pick, what's your ideal customer look like that you go to service?
yeah, our ideal customer, and it's changed, right? When I first started, I thought it was going to have to be $1 million homes and all this, all have gated communities and all that. And we do have people in those communities, but our bread and butter is you know, and I don't know if home prices mean anything, but around here, home prices range anywhere from you know 300,000 or 400,000 up to millions, right? But our bread and butter is the 4 to 7 hundred thousand dollar home, which is kind of quote average in our area, and those folks have typically they have a couple kids. Typically, the husband and wife are working, or just just one of the people are working, um, and they just need more time. And in Atlanta, it gets hot. It gets hot for 8 months or 9 months, and then we have about 3 months where it's just warm. And so all along, it's really needed. And that's our typical customer. We've got customers sometimes, believe it or not, their card fails every single month. Somehow they provide another card and then they pay for the service. So it's not typically the money that that is the factor. It's just that these folks want to have clean bins and they want them done on a routine basis. And honestly, once you have a clean bin, you can't imagine doing it yourself, or worse, not doing it yourself and going back to the bugs and all that kind of thing. It's just for they I get it. I mean, at least once a week. This is my most favorite service that I pay for. And ironically, sometimes we'll go to houses. I went to one house. I was literally the sixth provider. It was in a cul-de-sac, and there was like a carpet cleaner, a house cleaner, a pool person, a yard guy, myself, and then I don't know, one other person was there. And they had all those six services were there literally at that one time. And and people all the time say, "Oh my God, this is the best service. I will lose everything else and still keep you guys coming." So that says a lot, and I'm very thankful that that's the way it is.
I think a lot of people, it's a dirty job. And also, like you mentioned, the demographic you were talking about, they have kids at home, they're busy, they don't have the time to do that. They're at soccer practice, they're at baseball, and it can take, it's not like maybe changing your AC filter, it's a quick fix, or siphoning out your pool. It takes a while if you do it manually. So that's neat that you found that success as well in Atlanta, because for us in Miami, same thing. Back in 2010, my dad was trying to go to all these celebrity houses where LeBron James was living,
Sure.
and he quickly realized they weren't as interested as middle income Americans.
Well, I have two funny stories on that because we've got some reality TV show people here too. Um, the one story is on the pride of that. Like I think this service is different than the lawn mowing service. I think the folks that like to mow their own lawn, they absolutely take pride in it. Oh my gosh, the stripes or the lines or the this or the that, and they just love it. Who does your yard? Oh, I do. But nobody goes, hey, who cleans your wow, your garbage cans are spotless. This is great. So, because nobody asks about that. So I don't think there's any pride, if you will, in them doing it themselves. And it's just a dirty job. And frankly, 99.999% of the people don't do it, right? So there is no pride. But when they do hire a service like ours, they do, they don't have to go, you're at a party or something. Hey, where, and if I'm at my buddy's party, I'll take out the trash. Hey, where do you want me to put this trash? And they'll go around the corner. Well, half the people go, "Oh, no, 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 I'll take care of it," because they're embarrassed, right? They don't want to grab the, they don't want me to grab my,
Hmm.
not even me before Spiffy bin, just me as a friend. Don't go to my bin's disgusting. Well, it doesn't happen that way. With Spiffy bin, they enjoy that and they go, "Oh yeah, go ahead, take." In fact, let me tell you about it. And I wear Spiffy bin, sweatshirts and stuff, and go to a lot of local sports games. Oh, we do sports teams too as part of that advertising. Um, but I go to a lot of different ones, and guys will stop. "Oh, you're Spiffy bin? Let me and you go, Johnny, come on over here. Let me tell you about this company. These guys are great. Blah 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 blah." So it's really satisfying and gratifying to do it. And then a little bit on the the celebrity thing. So we've got a couple different celebrities, and apparently one time I was out there, and she's a reality star, and she's, I guess, videoed me while they're doing it, and that happens all the time. I never thought I'd have a company that people literally video us daily. And they go, "Let me tell you about this company, blah 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 blah," and she posts it out, right? And I don't know, I don't even think I was tagged or the company was tagged or anything. So we had no idea. And I started getting signups like that day. I didn't put two and two together. And I got a year paid in Huntington Beach. I got in California. I got a year paid in Washington State. I got like 4 monthlies in Colorado. Literally, I mean, and it just kept going, bing, 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 bing. And I'm like, this was over a 2 or 3 day period. I'm like, what the hell is going on? This is crazy. So I call up the Huntington Beach people and I say, that the trip charge is going to be prohibitive for us to come out there and do that. So, I'm going to refund your money, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I just got to ask you, how'd you hear about it? And she says, "Oh, I heard about you from such and such reality star." And I'm like, "Oh, yes." So, now we've added services and different subscriptions that allow us to filter who can come in. They can all come to our website, but they can't all sign up. So on that 200, and I think at the time it was $205 a year. Well, I would lose like 14 to 3, 6. I would lose $12 or something on that credit card fee. And then I had to refund it, and I was just out. So she was trying to help, I think, but ultimately with her nationwide or worldwide reach or whatever, it was not helpful. In fact, it costs us money. But now with my service area, they have to put in their address, and then it says, "Oh, great, Spiffy bin, does service it." And now my service area has the ability to now push that out to other sparkling bins. So it says, "Oh, Spiffy bin doesn't service Huntington Beach, but I don't know, Jason Proctor does, or whomever would take care of that." So it's been helpful, I think, in that regard. But it's saved me tons of money and time.
It's good timing too, Mike, because the day we're recording this episode is the same day Chris's episode aired, where we're talking about my service area. So it's good
Oh, how
timing.
funny!
I know you and a lot of people have used him and loved it. So I'm excited for clients. We're adding that now. When people get their website, they can also get that. And I mean, like you mentioned, you were one of the people who put a prolonged post just saying how much money you've saved. So that's exciting. Even though you got some reality TV stars trying to help your business, I'm sure you're happy not to have to do those refunds. And we're talking about all the positives that come with the business. Now, there are at times negatives or things that are unexpected challenges. What are some of the things you found, Mike, in your 4 years doing business that make those days a little bit tougher?
Yeah, definitely, definitely the routing and the um, keeping on top of things. I'm not saying I'm scatterbrained, but I definitely, a squirrel, go over here and go over here, go over. I'm always going things. So from day one, I went ahead and I purchased or subscribed or whatever to a routing software, and that's been very very helpful. And as helpful as it is, if I didn't have it, I don't know where I would be. But even with it, it becomes difficult. It becomes challenging as your area grows and as your trucks and I'm morphing, right. I was at one truck, and you get to 70%, and all you're doing is running ragged, and the last thing you want to do is when you get home, go ahead and re-enter people in and route them and all that kind of stuff. But that has been helpful to have, so I would definitely recommend from the get-go have that. Last year we went ahead and we changed our routing quite drastically, and we've always been in a 4 zone system, and we used to kind of go to zone 1 week 1, and zone 2 and zone 3 and zone 4, week 1, 2, 3, and 4. We've kind of morphed that now, where we go to zone 1 on, like, say, Tuesday, and then next week we go to zone 1 on Wednesday, and next week after that, Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So that way, if somebody sees us on a Tuesday and they sign up, I don't have to say, hey, it's going to be a month before we come back, or which is bad. But then I also don't have to go, yeah, I'll just shoot a truck over there and he'll drive 20 minutes to go do 2 bins and then go back on his route, which is worse because now it's costing us money. So by having it where we're there on Tuesday, if neighbor A sees us, they sign up on Wednesday, no problem. We'll be back either next month or we'll be back on Wednesday, which means you got to leave your garbage empty for one extra day. And then I said, then we'll throw you in the normal route afterwards. So they're all like, yeah, I'll leave it empty for an extra day. So we'll go there on Wednesday. Then the following month we go there on Tuesday. So it's helped out tremendously to have this sliding scale across all of our zones. And then the other thing we did now, at least, is we send all three trucks to that one zone. Like initially, I was like, oh, this will be great because I'll have truck one and two and two and three. The problem is if you have a breakdown, which can happen, or you have a call in, or you have a whatever, call it anything, rain delay or thunderstorm delay or whatever. Um, if you have a truck in one, two, three, three, now if this guy is behind, for this guy to come up here, he's got to drive 40 minutes, and that just didn't make sense. So now we throw all three trucks in this zone, and they just kind of bop around and do all of them. Then they go back to home base. Then the next day they go to zone two and they do all of them and back to home base. Now, if ever we have to change anything, we can change it and say, well, we got a little messed up or we have to pull things around. So routing and scheduling has been definitely the hardest thing. And if you don't have a tool, you should get one, whatever that might be. But that's been the most helpful with regards to operations. And then of course you've got the employee issues, having staff and getting staff and hiring staff. I mean, Indeed loves me, and I don't necessarily love Indeed, or at least the people that use their Indeed things. But it is what it is. It's amazing. You can set an interview at 8 o'clock at night for tomorrow at 9, and I don't know how they don't show up, but they don't show up, and it's like, come on, like we literally just talked about this 12 hours ago, and so. But anyways.
We've experienced that as well. Like you said, we're frequent posters on Indeed. And also another factor in the routing is, like you mentioned earlier, your friends, the waste haulers. Sometimes trash pickup is not perfectly on time, and that can play into it as well.
Yeah, for sure. Now, when we first started, I was working that manufacturing job, so I would go in at 4 in the morning, and I would work, until 1 o'clock or something, whatever it was, and one or two, and then I would leave there. I'd run up to the shop. I rented a warehouse right from the beginning. Again, cost money, but I wasn't thinking about it as a one truck venture or a today venture. I planned for it. I financed for it. I was ready with financials for it to support that. And so then I'd run up to the truck and I'd grab the truck and then I'd shoot out and I'd do my 4 or 6 bins. And funny story, we used to talk about that where we'd be like, how many bins do you have today? How many bins do you have today? And we're up to 12. And I think right around when we got to about 30 quote bins, we flipped it to stops. How many stops do you have today? Oh, well, we've got 15 stops, or 30 bins. And then that slowly, got up to 40, 45 or whatever. And then now the thing is, well, how full are the three trucks? Or are you running today? Because some days I run, some days I don't. And I don't have a third guy yet for that third truck. So I'm the third guy. So it's kind of funny how that happens. But, I forget what the question was. I apologize. But, um,
No, just saying how waste haulers and when they pick up trash, that can really play with when you get to service
Yeah.
the bins.
So the back then I did same day because I was done at 2, and then I would grab the truck. I'd be on site at 3:30, 4, 5, 6, whatever time it took. So same day worked. However, at least for me, we run, I don't know, 7 or 8 haulers we service, and they're all over the place. It's not like we have Waste Pro that does all of this community or this city. So we don't have that luxury. We've got 5 in our county, 3 in another county. The same, 2 or 3 of the 5 are in another county. So ultimately we don't have that flexibility. So we switched over last year, and then COVID came along, and they had their own staffing issues that we all have, and would prolong things. So we switched over last year to a next day service for the most part. There's a couple neighborhoods that we do same day. Like today, we'll run a neighborhood and we'll start at about 1 o'clock. And, that gives us a good opportunity to add a service day. So we'll go out and do 50 stops today in this one neighborhood. So it gets us 6 days a week instead of 5 days a week, and then we run Tuesday through Saturday the rest of the week as well. So it's you kind of ebb and flow and change things around, but going to next day allows us now to start at 8 in the morning instead of having to wait till 11. And even when you started at 11, you couldn't guarantee that both the trash and the recycle were going to be picked up by then. So then you have to circle back around. So all the routing frustrations I talked about in the last question have all but gone away with a new schedule system, and B, with the next day scenario. It's made it a lot easier.
Happy to hear it's gone smoother. For you, Mike, as you guys have grown and you've developed different ways, we're talking about marketing, scheduling. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on what services Spiffy Bin offers? Of course, cleaning trash bins, but is there anything extra and what do you guys offer that maybe adds to some revenue that you guys bring in?
Ultimately, build the business was critical because that over time is what's going to survive and help with cash flow. The best thing about this business is the cash flow. Today it's 2 stops. Next March it's 7 stops, and in January and March, April, May, June. In June it's 14 stops, and it just keeps going. And that's the beauty of this. So when you in the beginning you've got more time than you have perhaps money, and you want to maintain that money as long as possible. So I learned early on that I'm also going to do pressure washing. Pressure washing for me is the truck does it all, or it has the hot water. It's got the hose reel. I bought a big guy from your dad, from the sparkling bins that allowed me to do the driveway. And so I decided at that point also I would really only market to my spiffy bin clients. They already know me, they already like me, they already trust me. I mean, they see what we do to the bins. If that could do half as good with their driveway, they're gonna love it, right? And I don't do just half as good, but ultimately we decided we would do that from the beginning, and that's been great. So we at the bottom of each of our alerts it says, "Hey, just so you know, Spiffy Bin also does trash bin or does pressure washing." Then we've added house washing, and we've added a couple other things. So our next rig will likely be a like a skid, a pressure washing skid, and that will allow me not to have this, 100 and whatever $1,000 piece of equipment in front of the house. I can have a $20,000 one in front of the house and do as good a job. It's not that I'm sacrificing quality, but it's just that our resources are being better used for what they're supposed to be used for. The trash trucks will be doing the trash bin cleaning, and then this skid unit will be doing the pressure washing. And then it's ultimately good. So that's been really good. And in the beginning, I thought, well, I'll just do a driveway every day, and then I'll go out on my route. When I was doing same day, not exactly going to happen that way, but it does help fill in the gaps. And we've had a lot of really big really big paydays as far as pressure washing goes. We picked up a couple communities where we did all of their driveways. So there was 18 or 19 driveways, and we did all of their driveways. It took a day and a half, but we brought 2 trucks and took care of it on both, 2 separate Mondays, and stuff like that has been really helpful, and it helps with the revenue. When the trucks it prevents or it minimizes downtime. And then commercially, we've done some hauler stuff. Um, Again, we've done the HOAs and a couple different HOA bin, where we do all the bins in the driveways. And then dumpster pads are not as easy and not as clean, but they can be pretty lucrative. So, and honestly, I won't do them unless they're pretty lucrative. So that those two kind of go hand in hand. So I throw a number at them, and if they don't take it, that's fine, no problem. But we've made that we're pretty good where we say, okay, we'll be out next Tuesday. When's your trash? Tuesday, great. We'll be out next Wednesday. Have them pull the bin, the dumpster out of the corral and drop it in front. And then I said, just don't put any trash in it, leave it empty, and we'll go ahead and do our thing. And then the next time they come on Thursday or Friday, they can push it back in, and you'll have a clean pad. And like I said, that's very helpful. We've done that for a couple daycares. We did it for a pet sweets place. That was probably not a good decision. That was really bad. But again, if it pays well enough, it's you an hour of unpleasantness is can often pay pretty well. So
For you, Mike, as you've grown, and like you mentioned, a couple different ways you've taken advantage of revenues, you're really big on parades and getting eyes on the truck. What type of advice would you give to somebody that's looking to maybe get into this business?
yeah, so I think the first thing you have to have, I've got probably 3 steps. I would say the first thing is you have to have a conversation with yourself. It's not a business, or no business honestly is a business for the faint at heart. So I think you have to really have a conversation with yourself, your commitment level, your work ethic. Most people are going to get into this are going to be doing it themselves, which I think is smart because nobody's going to do a better job than yourself. But if all your life, we'll say, and just use an example, all your life you went into a job at 8 and then you left at 5, and if they said, "Hey, can you stay an extra 2 hours?" and you never did, you're probably not going to do well in any business because it's not a 8 to 5 job, and you hate to even have to say it, but it's true. The second thing I think would be, making sure you've got the resources. I see a lot of people that get into it, and I don't know if they think they're gonna have 500 subs every month for the years. But it's not the truth. It's going to take time and it's going to take education, and for the consumer. And unfortunately, education for the consumer means an outlay of money and or time for you. Like you got to do both, right? If you're trying to teach the consumer that this exists, you got to spend money and or time to get it in front of them to show them. They're not going to just stomp on your door and go, "Oh my God, I've been waiting for you for my entire life. Where have you been?" Like a romantic comedy or something. Um, so I think that's important. And, I had, fortunately, my wife and I were in a situation where, she's got a really good job, and she's in prior to the manufacturing job, I was in real estate for 15, 20 years in New York and was doing well and enjoyed it. And it was great. And we decided that, about 10, 11 years ago, now was the time to move. And so we moved to Atlanta, and I didn't want to get started and try to rebuild that business down here where I knew nobody. So I, kind of was floundering, if you will. And so fortunately, the support of my wife, and we at the time had shown a pretty good. We basically financed this business with a HELOC, or a home equity line of credit. So our house had done well in the market, and so we were playing with, quote unquote, the house's money, if you use a gambling term, in our mind. We didn't expect to have that gain, and so we utilized it. And so without her support, and being able to pay the bills, and honestly kind of going along with this, it was funny. I think we were a year or two in, and I said, "So did you think?" Or no, she asked me. She goes, "Did you think?" At that time we were getting truck two. She goes, "Did you think that we were going to be getting truck two in like a year and a half or 2 years?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And she's like, "Oh, why would I think anything else?" And she goes, I go, "Did you?" And she's like, "Hell no." She goes, "I thought this was just some wonky midlife crisis. Most guys going buy a Corvette. You were buying a trash truck." She's like, "Whatever." And I don't know if that means we don't talk enough or what, but but she was supportive, and without that support, and because there's days you're outside and it's raining or it's hot, it's whatever. And then I think the last thing is your why. What's your big why? In the real estate courses that we go to, they always had this thing about a goal board or a why board. What do they call it? I guess your goal board. So you're supposed to put your pictures of
Vision
your
board.
Corvettes or your this vision. Thank you, vision board. And you can tell how much I really have a lot of, I don't really subscribe to that very much. But when it's hot and it's sweaty and it's cold and it's rainy and there's thunderstorms and you're like ducking in the truck before you think you're going to get struck by lightning, you create a vision board. At least I did in my head. And so, my big whys are obviously my family, right? I didn't want to have, at that time I was 46. I didn't, I was like, am I going to do this manufacturing job for 20 something more years? Heck no. And so I had this, in my thing, it was the vision boards. My kids were going to be going to school soon. And, I knew that, I have three daughters, so I know there's probably three weddings coming up, and all sorts of different things. And they're like, how are we gonna navigate all that? And so, I had on days like that when it was 7:30 at night and I had to turn the lights on so I could clean a bin. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? But I just knew that my drive and my passion, and why I was doing it. Also on that vision board, it was a boat, and so I thought, well, next summer I'm going to be out on the boat, or next summer I'm going to be out on the boat. Next summer, well, so I mean, fortunately, last summer we bought one, and so yesterday I was out on the boat. Saturday I was out on the boat, and that's those are the things where as you're driving around, you're like thinking about things and what keeps you going, and so it was always the family, and it was honestly the boat. So I'm happy to say that I was out on the boat. So
That's awesome, Mike. Glad you get to enjoy some time on the boat because, like you said, you don't get what type of work it is until you're out there. I mean, it's hot. We have similar humidity, probably like you guys in Georgia, and it's a grind during the summer.
hmm no doubt.
Lastly, before we let you go, Mike, where do you see Spiffy Bin in the next 5 years?
Um, so what's interesting is, part of that whole out on the route and where I was driving, when I was driving and doing things in my mind, and I told everybody because I also learned in my real estate classes, what you focus on expands is one of the lines they use. So if you're always, like the first when you buy a pickup truck or whatever, you buy a gray pickup truck. Now all of a sudden you see all these gray pickup trucks, right? Because you just bought it. So you're kind of your eyes are drawn to that and your brain and all these different things. So I picked up a couple things in these classes, even if I didn't necessarily think I believed it. But so I would always tell people they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is a great franchise. How did you buy it?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Well, it's not a franchise. It's just me." And they're like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, whatever, whatever." And they go, "What are your plans?" And I said, "Well," and I said it. If I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. 3 years, three trucks, and me not driving any of them. That was my goal, my mantra, my whatever. Because I knew once I got, or I felt like once I got to three trucks and those trucks were full, that then I don't have to be out on the truck every single day. And to some extent, that's completely accurate. I'm not full on all three trucks yet, but this year we will be. This summer we will be, and that now allows you to do different things and build different parts of the business. Um, so I guess ultimately I threw that out to the universe or what have you, and it kind of came true. So I'm just I'd like to have 8 trucks here, and I'd like to maybe branch out to another city or two that are nearby, and or who knows, and or franchise. There's a bunch of different things you can look at and do and think about. And I also have to recognize I just turned 50. So at some point, you have to also wonder why you're doing all of this. Am I doing all this to just keep kicking the can down the road and keep trying to make it better? Yes, but also is it better maybe to stay solid and just pick our one area and just keep working that one area, and probably that's the better thing to do, but I don't always do the better thing sometimes. So we'll see. It's just so I'd like, I definitely want to have the universe know that, I'd like to have, 7 or 8 trucks, and in 5 years would be great.
Mike Walker out of Atlanta, Georgia. His company is Spiffy Bin. He runs 3 trucks in that area. Mike, I want to thank you for coming on to Trash Chatter. Also, thank you for supporting Sparkling Bins. So happy to see success for someone like you. Love all your Instagram videos of you in the trucks. Keep up the great work. Hopefully, you guys continue to expand and you can enjoy more time out on your boat as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Victoria, and your family. You guys have been great, easy to work with from day one. With your dad, and then I think the last two I bought through you. So, it's been simple, seamless, very easy. You know, I may not have been as easy because I tend to get. It's funny, I tend to get particular about certain things, and you guys delivered on all those particularities or what have you, and it's been great. So I never would have dreamed, you know, 5 years ago that this would have been where I am, but ultimately we are. So it's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Mike. You can check out Trash Chatter every other Monday. We release episodes. Also, check out his Instagram, his Facebook. He's got great content. And if you want to get some tips, tune into this episode and all of our upcoming ones on Trash Chatter. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.